Okay, so when you hear core training, what's the first thing that pops into your head? Crunches, right? Planks? For sure. But what if I told you the single most critical piece of your core stability is something you've probably never even thought about?
I mean, think about it. What if that nagging, chronic ache in your lower back, or that tension you're always carrying around in your neck? What if it has nothing to do with your back? What if the real culprit is hiding in plain sight, right in the middle of your chest?
Yep, you heard me. Your core has a roof, and that roof is your rib cage. Imagine your core is a house. You've probably spent ages working on the floor, that's your pelvis, and the walls, your abs, but you've totally forgotten about the roof. And without a solid roof, the whole house is unstable.
And this is so important because when that roof is unstable, the entire structure is at risk. If it's kind of lifted up or disconnected from the walls or even rusted completely shut, the whole thing just becomes weak. So today, we're going to fix that roof.
So let's get one thing straight. Most of us just picture the rib cage as this rigid, bony shield that's just there to protect our heart and lungs. End of story. But the truth? Oh, the anatomical truth is so much cooler than that. It's actually a super dynamic, moving, breathing structure that is absolutely essential for real core stability.
Okay, so to really get how to control this roof, we've got to look at its blueprint. And it's a brilliant design, really, because you see, not all ribs are created equal. And the way they're different, well, that's the secret to how it all works.
All right, first up, you've got your true ribs. These are pairs 1 through 7. Think of them as the main foundation, the heavy-duty framework of the roof. They connect directly and firmly to your breastbone, your sternum, making this super stable, secure shield for all the important stuff inside.
Then you've got the false ribs. That's pairs 8, 9, and 10. Now these guys are a little more clever. They don't hook directly into the breastbone. Instead, they attach to the cartilage of the rib right above them. And that little design tweak gives them way more flexibility, which is key for letting your rib cage expand when you take a big breath.
And last but definitely not least, we have the stars of today's show, the floating ribs, pairs 11 and 12. Now, these are our potential troublemakers. Why? Well, they're only attached to your spine in the back. Their front ends are just, floating. That makes them super mobile, which is cool, but it also makes them the hardest part to control.
So the big takeaway here is that this roof is not supposed to just sit there. It is designed to move. A really good, healthy breath isn't just about your belly puffing in and out. No way. It's a full-on, three-dimensional expansion of this entire structure.
And there are 3 great ways to picture this 3D movement. First, you've got the pump handle motion. That's your chest moving front to back. Then, there's the bucket handle. Picture the handle on a bucket swinging out. That's your ribs expanding side to side. And finally, the diaphragm piston. That's your diaphragm dropping down, creating space top to bottom. A truly efficient breath needs all 3 working together.
But what happens when this amazing, intricate system starts to break down? When the roof gets too loose or maybe it gets rusted shut? Well, that's when you start to see this domino effect, a cascade of problems all through the body. And it usually fails in one of 2 main ways. First, you've got rib flare. This is our loose roof. This is when those bottom ribs just pop forward, they totally disconnect from the core, and that forces your lower back into this big arch. Ouch! On the flip side, you have thoracic rigidity, the rusted roof. This is when the whole rib cage just gets stiff and locked up, maybe from sitting too much, and it completely loses its ability to move and rotate like it should. And this gets us right to the heart of the pain problem. It's something called compensatory movement. Think of your body as a team. When one team member, in this case the rib cage, gets kind of lazy or stuck and just stopped doing its job of rotating, well, other team members have to pick up the slack, right? And who are those poor, overworked teammates? Yep, your neck and your lower back. They are forced to work overtime. And that, right there, is why so much chronic pain can be traced back to a rib cage that isn't pulling its weight. Okay, so now for the million-dollar question. How do we fix it? How do we retrain this lazy team member and rebuild our core from the top down? Well, the solution is all about finding that perfect balance, teaching the roof to be both stable and mobile. All right, for that loose roof problem, the rib flare, here is a really powerful cue. Just imagine zipping up a jacket. As you exhale, you visualize that zipper pulling everything gently up and in, zipping your lower ribs down and back, reconnecting them to your pelvis where they belong. Here's another fantastic one, especially for when you're lifting your arms overhead. I want you to imagine there's a heavy bowling ball sitting right in your chest. Feel that weight? That's your anchor. It keeps your rib cage from popping up and forward as your arms lift. It's a great way to teach your core how to stay stable during movement.
Now, what about that rusted roof? Well, here the goal is the exact opposite. We need mobility. It's all about oiling those rusty hinges. We do that with gentle twisting movements, exercises that really open up the chest and restore its natural movement. This lets the ribcage finally step up and do its job again, which means your neck and your back can finally take a well-deserved vacation.
And this brings us to the perfect image for what we're aiming for. I want you to think of an accordion. See, to play music, it has to be flexible enough to expand and contract with the breath. That's mobility. But at the same time, the frame has to be held firm and steady by the musician. That's stability. You need both, working in perfect harmony.
So if you take away just one thing today, let it be this. Your rib cage is not just a passive cage. It is the dynamic, breathing, moving roof of your core. And true deep strength is only possible when that roof is properly connected to the floor of your pelvis.
And I'll leave you with a final thought to play with. We've talked a lot about the front and sides of your ribs, but the next time you take a really deep breath, I want you to try sending that breath into the back of your body, right into that forgotten space between your shoulder blades. Imagine a small balloon back there just gently inflating. What happens when you awaken that space? That might just be the final piece of the puzzle.